Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Whiskey Wheels Wounds. As always, I'm Shawn.
And I am Steve.
And what's our featured whiskey, Steve?
The featured whiskey this week is Four Branches. Four Branches is a distillery that was founded by four members of one member of each branch of the United States military.
The four core ones.
The four core ones. Um, with the guidance of Hall of Fame master distiller Steve Nally, they create a truly unique blend of bourbon. For our initial release, they landed a 4-grain mash bill, carefully sourcing 3 different mash builds and ranging from 4 to 7-year-old barrels. And the blend is special wheat and create a smooth flavor based by a little bit of warmth onto the finish with um, and affectionately referred as a Kentucky kiss. So it is barreled in Bardstown, Kentucky, and made in
Bottled or barreled?
barreled.
Okay. Uh,
It's probably bottled.
Distilled in Kentucky and Indiana.
Yeah. So that so basically what that does is you get you'll blend the whiskey. You'll get as they said, you'll get notes from different barrels and you blend them and then bottle them. That's how that works.
Yeah, you're the whiskey connoisseur.
Yeah,
I am not.
that's how that works. So um Four Branches. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, and if they ever decide to do a 6 branches version, I don't know how well that'll go.
Yeah. I mean,
Because potato on the Space Force. And while we love our little brothers, the Coasties, really, you're
right.
like Diet Navy.
Diet Navy. So yeah.
Navy without all the semen.
Oh, I'm sure they have plenty of semen. Uh
So this week's episode, the Olympics are currently going on right now,
they are.
and you having been on the All Army wrestling team,
I have.
and the potential to become an Army athlete at the Olympics, um, we're going to talk about military members who are Olympic athletes.
Right. And there's 596 I think is the count, 590 um athletes from the United States at the Olympics in Paris this year. And you know, we thought because of the show that we do that we would highlight the military members from said Olympic Games. And again, I have a little bit of um a background here. No way, shape, or form have I ever uh I did go to the '96 Olympics as a patron.
Well,
um
you have wrestled eventual Olympic gold medalists that were part of the All Army wrestling team.
yeah, yeah, right.
And that's why I said the
I wrestled,
potential.
yeah, I wrestled with Olympians.
Yeah, because if things would have lined out differently for you in your career, it could have been a possibility that you could have been a wrestler at the Olympics.
Yeah. Yep. I wrestled with Rodney Smith. He was a medalist. Um, I want to say 92 games, Barcelona. Um, I know he was in 88 in Seoul. He might have medaled in Seoul and not. Um, it's been many years ago. So yeah, Derek Waltrip. He was an Olympian um, in my weight class, and one of the weight classes I chose to wrestle in because I'm like, oh, okay, not good enough. Let me let me drop some more weight. Oh, yep, not good enough. Let me drop, until I was like, I can't drop any more weight. I'm just not good enough.
I'm not wrestling in the 120-pound
No,
class, so it is what it is.
one uh Yeah, 187.25, which is 87 kilos, is the lowest I went, is the lowest I could go, um, which is amazing because I joined the Army at 300 pounds. Um, oh, bless you.
Excuse me.
I joined the Army at 300 pounds after basic training. I was, 250 or whatever. And I wrestled in Korea. That's when I first got the invite to the All Army Wrestling team. In '94, didn't go because they couldn't tell me if I would have to come back. Like you're invited to a trial camp, so you go to. At the time, it was Fort Benning, now Fort Moore. You went to Fort Benning, and you tried out for 3 months, and then
It's basically like training camp for the NFL.
yeah,
You show up for a chance to make the roster.
yep. And then but what they couldn't tell me in Korea is if those 3 months I'm gone, if it counts, like on I'm still on the books in Korea, but
Were
I'm
you
not physically in
were
Korea.
you going to have to go back to Korea and make up those 3 months?
Right. So, that would have put me away from my family 3 extra months. You know what I mean? Opposed, I'll be in Korea 12, and then if I'm just going to Fort Benning and then back to Korea, if I didn't make the team, and then they're like, well, if you make the team, you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, I get that, but um, so anyways, I end up going.
In hindsight, though, would 3 months more in Korea really been that bad?
Yeah, then in hindsight, no, not at all. I didn't have kids then, so absolutely not. But yeah, so um, in '95, I ended up going. I met, you know, as a, I went as a heavyweight, ran into Dramil Byers, which he eventually became a two-time Olympian, a world champion, um, and it's nice to see, it's nice to run into people that did that, you know, and like we were talking about off camera, like he joined the Army as a private and spent his entirety of his career on the Army wrestling team. Now, people may have views about that, you know what I mean? And um, I've wholeheartedly believe that's service to country. You know what I mean? Um, and I also believe that there's people out there who aspire to be Olympians, and they don't have the funds to do private lessons or this and that. Um, Dramil Byers had raw strength, raw
Talent.
talent. You know what I mean?
He needed refined skills.
Oh yeah, and he got it.
Yeah.
Many years over. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if in '95 he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be an Olympian." I don't know, but you stay around long enough, and that's the atmosphere in the wrestling room, at least for the Army. There's a reason why we send, and I say we, the Army sends wrestlers to every Olympics that I can remember. You know what I mean? I just talked about, you know, um, Rodney Smith in '88 and '92, then, um, Derek Waltrip in '96, you know, just, and these are all Greco-Roman, right? There's different styles of wrestling, not to get into that, but so we have there's female also that represent, they have a female wrestling program, which they didn't have that back when I wrestled, but it's a good thing they have it now. um, but that's just wrestling. The Army um, has a world class athlete program, and I'm sure that, the other branches do as well. um, and they treat their athletes very well. And you're not subjected to the Army standards, right? You're not, nobody's getting heightened taped, and nobody's getting. You very rarely wear uniforms.
But to be an ideal athlete in some sports at certain weight classes, you're not going to pass those standards.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same thing at West Point for offensive linemen or defensive linemen. You know what I mean? Like,
they're still smaller. The service academies linemen are smaller compared to your other Division I schools, but they couldn't fall to execute at the level that Army and Air Force and Navy execute in college athletics.
Right.
Those boys have to be bigger than what a typical standard would be.
Yes. Well, yeah. And I tell you, I played in a football game in 2010. I know this is off topic, but we played Columbus State University down in Georgia, and Columbus State was trying to be recognized by the NCAA to have a football team. So they had to do so many scrimmages and show tape to the NCAA that they can play football in the NCAA, and it's just not a bunch of guys out there trying to be rec ball, right? So one of the games, and this is one of the coolest things I ever did in my Army career, was I'm in Iraq, and our brigade ops sergeant major Harrison, gets us. We're in formation one day. He's like, "Hey, we're going to play football against a college." We're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to play tackle football against a college in the stadium." So we were soldiers, right?
Yep.
When Mel Gibson's giving his speech, we're Jews and Gentiles, and I will be the first one off the bird. I will be the last one.
Where he's wearing the parade uniform and all that.
That stadium right there is called Doughboy Stadium in the middle of Fort Benning. That's where we play.
Now that's cool.
Right? We played a bunch of fucking. I mean, in 2010, I graduated in 92, so I put a football helmet on the last time in 1992. In 2010, I put a football helmet back on.
18 years later.
Right? And
you're a 36-year-old old man.
Yeah. And I just got blown up, right? So this is before I knew I broke my neck, right? I just severely dislocated my shoulder. And Sergeant Major Harrison's like, "Oh, you're playing. You're on the team. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so it's one of those things where to tie that in, our brigade sergeant major is like, "Listen, for the next 6 months, 600-9 don't apply. Like, get as big as you fucking want, because you're playing against fucking college dudes." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll do that," right? And but as cool as that was, just fun fact, for as cool as that was, they left Iraq early to go home, and the local indoor, this is even cooler, the local indoor football team coaching staff coached us.
Oh, nice.
Right? So we got all our equipment from them. They coached us like they coached their fucking professional team. And yeah, we monkey stomped fucking Columbus State University. We monkey stomped them.
I take it they didn't get their football program.
And they got, I believe they did, but I mean, winning and losing didn't. I mean, you send motherfuckers to war. You're like, hey, when you get back from war, I'm gonna put you in a football game against motherfuckers who
Just
didn't go to war.
yeah, just graduated high
Get the
school.
fuck out of here. You're gonna run the ball 82 fucking times in a row down your fucking throats, boys. But yeah, so
What? But that's sorry, but that's why the service academies are so dangerous to colleges when they play them.
oh yeah, because they play different. They play
Yeah.
option wing tee, the wishbone, whatever.
Yeah.
What? Yeah,
And
'cause
colleges
they have to.
but athletes at colleges, they haven't seen shit like that since Pee Wee, if at all.
Yeah, and they have to play like that because they're smaller. You want, you know, that is what evens the playing field. And some people say the Army Navy game is the worst football game ever to watch. I don't believe that. I hold.
If you expect modern football with all the rules they've made to have 500-yard games and stuff like that, yes. But if you want to watch real,
If you want, yes,
if you want real old school football, there you go.
Football in its purest form, the Army Navy game. Listen, the pageantry is fucking off the chain. The game itself. I went to an Army Navy game. Holy shit. But yeah, the pageantry is off the chain. So yeah, I mean, is it a good football game? It's relative.
Yeah.
To what
do you expect?
Right. And man, it was a good fucking game. So Army athletes and go back to when I went to the recruiter. That was his fucking pitch to me. Hey, I know you. You fucking wrestled in the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference. Yeah, I did. You want to join the Army and wrestle? Does the Marine Corps have a team? They sure do. But he pulled out the Army times, and at the time, the Army won its fifth straight Armed Forces title. He's like, you want to be part of the winner? You want to be? I'm like,
man, if he wouldn't have had that Army times, he was almost a Marine.
Yeah, right. Well, and the Marine was out to lunch. The Marine recruiter, he was out to lunch. So yeah, I mean, and it's funny because it was such a small part of my military career, but it's probably the the one thing I'm known for the most. And I wasn't even the best wrestler. You know what I mean? Now, Dramil Byers, like I said, that dude, funny story. We're in Times Square, New York. This is after 07 deployment, 07 into 08. So it's before the 08 Olympics. And me and the ex were in Times Square, and there's a military recruiting station in the middle of Times Square. It looks like a Denny's, the Denny's, the old silver. It looks like a fucking, what's them campers called?
Airstream.
Yeah, it looks like, you know what I mean? Like it's a metal building in the middle of fucking Times Square. It's weird. In the middle of the street. So we're over here on the left side, and as we're walking up, I can see people. Looks like they're doing a PT test. And as we got closer, and now we're at the corner looking straight across, and I'm like, I know that guy, and my ex was like, come on, I'm like, I fucking know that guy. I said I wrestled with him, and so there was a break. There was kind of a break in action over there, and I'm like, hey, Byers. And he looked up. He's like, Vic. And she's like, God damn, I guess you do know him. And he stood there and told my wife all these fucking, he's like, oh man, your husband's such a good wrestler. And I'm like, God damn, I feel like I should be paying you, And and
because her opinion of you is not very
high,
high.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, good luck in the Olympics. And I knew he was going. You know what I mean? I had no idea he'd be in New York that day, but and it was a recruiting campaign. Have Olympians in Times Square to give potential recruits, a PT test or whatever.
Well, I mean, I joined the Army and became an Olympian.
Yeah.
You can do it too.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So yeah, and I mean, since then he has hit me up on Messenger out of the blue several times, and we tried to link up when we were in Colorado, but his schedule had him out of Colorado at the time. And I mean, we actually did. He called me when we were up in Colorado, but it's just one of those things where I don't think I had an impact on people, but then people reach back out to you and like, man, I miss the days when we used to battle in the room, um, uh, and he talks about
The iron sharpens iron.
yeah, but he talks about there's one day we're in the room and um, the recruits or the people who were trying out, they come and there's a bunch of us, and they you pick you up at Columbus Airport, they take you to Fort Benning in a 15 passenger van, and they just keep dumping you out, and they go back and get more and dump you out, and they said, hey, this is the first day of getting to Fort Benning, and they said, don't do anything but put your tennis shoes on. Right? You're like, all right. So you're in the fucking clothes you came in and you put your tennis shoes on. When the last van gets there, they allow them to put their tennis shoes on. Your bags are still in the parking lot. Fucking coach Tony Thomas says, okay, get up here at the stop sign and line up. And we do. And he's like, all right, here's your instructions. You're going to run out to the next stop sign. You're going to make a left. You're going to run out to the White House. Once you get to the White House, you're going to turn around and you're going to run back. If you stop at any time, you're going to get on the van. I'm taking you to the airport. Right? So you're like, all right, it's a fucking run. Now you're in fucking street clothes with just tennis shoes on, and you run. Come to find out, it's fucking like, I don't know, 4 miles to get to that White House. And a lot of people left that day. Like a lot of people's like, fuck this. You know what I mean? A lot of people left that day.
Well,
You're
not wasting time having them in the room.
Right. And it didn't matter what kind of wrestlers they were. He just said, if you stop running, and I was a fat ass. It took me a long time to finish. I didn't stop running, and neither did Byers. And you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, like, it's one of those like, so. Army Sports has, they have softball for men and women. They have basketball. They have bowling. They have wrestling, of course. And most of those are, a lot of those are Olympic qualifying sports. One of the top sports in the United States Army is the Army Marksmanship Unit that was also at Fort Benning, and they send people to the Olympics every year, and they win the motherfucking Olympics every year. Skeet shooting,
I don't know who the marksman team was this year, but they didn't do so hot.
In skeet shooting?
No, in the Olympics, one of the marksman's teams did not do well.
Oh,
Because there was a joke I saw on the internet
okay.
that the Americans didn't do as well at one of the shooting events, and the comment was because it wasn't in a school.
Oh, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Right?
The internet.
The internet stays undefeated.
But yeah, so the Army marksmanship unit, they send, a lot like the Army, they send motherfuckers to every Olympics that I can remember. And
So based on your experience,
uh-huh.
you have a high reverence
Oh yeah.
for military athletes, especially the ones that get to go on to that earn the right to go on to be an Olympian,
Oh yeah.
because it's not handed to you. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
So because we were talking beforehand, that there are some people who look at, you had said that Byers came in as a private, retired as an E7,
Right.
spent his entire time on the Army wrestling team.
Yep.
Was never actually out in quote unquote real Army.
Right.
And that some people don't look at him in the same light as you would. You came in as a private, retired as an E7,
Mm-hmm.
have a vastly different experience, 4 tours in Iraq, being injured, blown up a number of times. You do not look at him as anything less than what he is. But there are other people that look at athletes on those teams as, but are you really in the Army? Are you really serving your country?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And hell, one of the conversations Byers had, I was still in the military at the time, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come up to Colorado Springs, and we can find a spot for you?" You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Nah," because at that time, because when I talked to him, um, and it might have been the in-person conversation, or like a conversation we had afterwards after we met in '08, because '08 was like, that was my third deployment. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Hey, why don't you come out here? Like, you could be the operations sergeant or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, I'm still doing the fucking the deploying thing, right? Like, I loved being a wrestler. I love being a goddamn
Combat engineer in combat.
yeah. I love that more. As crazy as that might sound, I love that more. I Again, that is the reason the recruiter saying, "Hey, join the Army. You can be on the Army wrestling team." Like, as a 18-year-old kid who was a couple months removed from losing in the state championship, I still had a fucking bad taste in my mouth. I wanted another shot of.
I'm going to say something. It's going to sound fucked up,
Okay.
but once I finish it, you'll understand it.
Okay.
You love wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't love wrestling enough to push you to the Olympian level. You love combat engineer, and you loved that enough to push you to 4 deployments. As you've said before, when you get blown up, to get back into a truck the next day and go out and do it again. There, like, there's because you are a hyper competitive person,
Yeah.
and if you loved wrestling the way you loved doing what you did in Iraq, you would have been Olympian level because of how competitive you are and how you'll drive yourself to the end. You love wrestling, but you didn't love it enough to take you that level, like you put into being an NCO, a platoon sergeant,
Right.
a combat engineer. Like it wasn't in the Army spoke to you, but it didn't speak to you as a wrestler. It spoke to you as a combatant and a leader.
Well, I think for one, my work ethic in high school sucked. I'm the first one to admit it. I will always admit that my work ethic sucked. And the reason why it sucked is because strength things came easy. Um, when I wrestled,
You're a giant.
well, I've never,
I mean,
I wasn't always a giant,
but what
but
I'm saying is, even when you were a younger kid, you were still bigger than most of the other
right.
kids.
I had to bring my birth certificate to many sporting events.
So you didn't have to put in. This is a conversation Trevor I had when he was in high school because he, 5'7", 170
Right.
pounds. You, you have to work harder than the kid that's 6'2", 200
Yeah.
because he is physically gifted in ways that you can't. But hard work will eventually, if the bar graph goes far enough, hard work will eventually overtake physical gifts because if there's no hard work with the physical gift, it plateaus. And hard work will push past a physical gift. And that's how you were in high school. Your physical talents took you so far, but the work ethic didn't push you to an even higher elevation.
Right.
You kind of plateaued out at the extent of I'm bigger and stronger than everybody, so I don't have to work as hard.
Right. And I carried that, it kind of it kind of carried over. I didn't never like lifting weights ever. Um, it just wasn't my thing. A lot of my friends, they loved it. That was their fucking thing in life to do, lift weights. Hell, they still do. But I was able to lift with them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. They're putting in a ton of work and effort to be able to bench whatever the number
right.
is. And you're walking in there in a pair of jeans and you're going to throw your hat down and lay down on the thing and throw it up just as many times
Yeah.
with
And I and
minimal effort.
and the funny thing, you know, we had a battalion commander one time. He used to famously say, "Hey, you're in Iraq for a year. You can either push plates up or push up on plates." You know what I mean? He's like, and by the look of some of you, you're pushing up on too many plates. And but we had a sergeant major prof. That dude was probably, oh, I don't want to. I'll, I mean, he ain't gonna listen to this motherfucker anyway. So I don't. He was probably, I don't know, 5'6", maybe, little motherfucker, but he was a fire hydrant. And in in Ruston Maya, they had fucking um like these dogs on the wall in the gym. If you bench this much, you're a fucking bulldog, and you know, and and he probably benched more than anybody on the fucking fob. And they kept they kept moving his name over to the poodle or fucking, and all he would fucking, so he would put 10 more pounds on the fucking bar and he'd bench that shit and fucking he moved his name back over. And but people just fuck with him. But like, even then, motherfuckers, motherfuckers be like, "How much you bench?" And I'm like, "Man, I haven't benched since high school." And they're like, "Well, you should come bench," And then I'm like, "Well, last time I benched, I can bench 300. Let's put 300 on. Let's see." And then I'd fucking, you know, for to to be eligible to be a lineman on the football team that I played for in 2010, you had to do 225 pounds at least 16 times. Right? I was a member of that team. I'm just saying. Um, without, without trying. Um, I tell Chrissy all the time, like, I don't lift weights to give people a fighting chance. I'm like, that's why I'm so fucking lazy. I give people a fighting fucking chance, right? I mean, it's not, but, Callahan, I mention him on every episode because he critiques us after every episode. So,
but he is the number one faithful listener.
yes. And he likes to say all the time that he would have loved to try me back in the day. And I'm like, like, I held the title for a reason.
So the reason he would have loved to try you is because you didn't lift, and that gave him what he thought was a chance.
And what I tell him all the time, you had opportunities. You know what I mean? Like, I was the combatives instructor. I was the fucking, you had opportunities, bro. If you wanted one, you could have took one. But especially when the Velcro came out, I used to tell I would stand in my platoons and I would tell them, like, this rank peels off as fast as I put it on. Like, don't let the rank fucking scare you. If you want some of this, we can go behind the woodshed. But understand, when we come back around the woodshed, if you whoop my ass or not, I'm still in fucking charge. So you might as well just fucking do it now and alleviate the lumps on your head. Because I broke one of my soldiers' fucking hand because he jumped on me. And my first sergeant's like, hey, we can't fucking do that. And I'm like, well, tell that motherfucker not to jump on me again. Because he fucking jumped on me. I slung him off and then just fucking stomped on him. Because,
Sorry, Vic, it's hard out on these streets.
you got to let a motherfucker know. You fuck around and find out with me. And
what's that meme? The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, work ethic, and I'm also gonna say, listen, there's fucking levels to the game. And and I'll never ever say I'm in that level. You know what I mean? I wrestled Kurt Angle one time. One of my, another one of my claim to fames. I wrestled Kurt Angle one time. He had a broken fucking neck, and he wore me out. We wrestled for, I think, 15 seconds. He 10-pointed me in 15 seconds. So,
but an Olympian,
gold medalist,
not an Olympian,
right? No, I'm saying, there's levels of this shit.
But
there's levels of this shit, and to look at to watch TV. For those motherfuckers on Twitter, or excuse me, X, for those motherfuckers on Facebook, on fucking Instagram, on TikTok, on fucking any platform that don't do any of the shit that they're watching on TV and have the gall, the audacity, the fucking the wherewithal to say anything of ilk about any one of those motherfucking athletes, shame on yourself. You know what I mean? Shame on you.
Yeah.
There's a different level to this shit. What's the guy's name? I'm gonna have to look it up. The fucking, he was a redhead. He played for the Boston Celtics. The fuck was his name? You got something to say? I'll look it up.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, I mean,
right, I got it. So every service branch has a world-class athlete program in some variation.
Yep.
Part of that is, competition between the branches. That's very good. There's a reason why the Army Navy game is so big between the Army and Navy, because of that stuff. Hell, there was a number of years where the Air Force had the Commander's Cup every year, but I mean, it is what it is. And those athletes are aspiring to reach great heights, and a lot of them do. They get to go and represent their country at the Olympic Games and compete against other world-class athletes for the opportunity to stand on a podium and have a piece of metal hanging around their neck. And the ones that come out of the military especially are are technically a professional athlete in the
Yep.
sense that that's their job, is to be said athlete.
Uh-huh.
But they're not what you think of when you say professional athlete. They don't play professional football or professional. They don't play, they don't, they train as a profession, but they don't play the sport professionally.
When I'll use USA Wrestling as, that's my only point of reference. USA Wrestling. So back in the day, I want to say if you were first in the country at nationals, USA Wrestling would pay you I want to say $1,500 a month stipend. Maybe it was $2,500.
Well, when I say that, when what I mean by that is that the guys that are on like the Army wrestling team,
Right.
you get paid your rank pay.
Right.
Right. That's what I mean by
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Not they're technically professional because they're being paid to wrestle,
Right.
but they're not wrestling professionally.
Right.
It's different than what we were talking about, the dream team
Right.
and USA basketball
Right.
being made up of world-class professional athletes
Yeah.
at what they do versus there's no professional swimming, and you were
Right.
talking about Katie Ledecky and and
Yeah.
and so
I got a girl crush on her.
I
I
mean,
mean,
anybody that can absolutely obliterate people the way she's
fucking
obliterated
yeah.
them in the pool is insane.
Real ripping
But
that.
the reason why I'm going there is because of something that you were ranting on. Um,
I don't rant.
oh, you ranted on this. You don't have anything against LeBron James.
Right.
You just felt that he shouldn't have been the ideal person to carry the flag for the Olympic Games because he's a professional basketball player and his level of, while he is great,
Uh-huh.
the distance between him and the next great basketball player is not as drastic as it is for, say, Katie Ledecky, her greatness compared to the next great
Yeah.
swimmer in her event.
In her event, is like the difference between her and number 2 in her event is like 20 seconds.
Yeah, which in a pool is insane.
Fucking forever. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not the fucking um the LeBron basher. Um
Yeah,
and I and I
he's a homegrown kid for
right.
us.
And in his professional life, he and personal life, in his adult life, he's done everything right.
Right.
For the most part. I mean, um besides taking $1 billion from China, regardless. Um, but yeah, he has enough of his own spotlight. You know what I mean?
He doesn't em- and I deal with this a lot with Special Olympics.
Uh-huh.
Because Jason embodies what you think of when you think of a Special Olympian, right?
Yes.
But there are individuals on Special Olympics teams that because they had an IEP in school because they were dyslexic,
Right.
they qualify to participate in the Special
Right.
Olympics. It's not the same. And so LeBron doesn't embody what you think of when you think of historically what an Olympian should be.
Right.
And
Like,
and a true amateur at their sport, the best of what the country has to offer at said sport, but not, a guy who's been playing professional basketball for 20 some years and has, he's in the conversation as either one or two in the 1-2 conversation between him and Jordan.
right.
You know what I mean?
And most of these other athletes, every other athlete other than, the women's basketball team, the men's basketball team, I would say, Michael Phelps was an outlier. You know what I mean? You know,
Which, by the way, I mean, that dude took pot as a performance enhancing drug to a whole new level.
right. You know, for the most part, every 4 years is the only time you hear these people's names.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I understand it's a great honor. To me, if it's a slippery slope, but to me,
A true, in the true spirit of Olympian athletes.
yes,
Those should be regarded higher than professional athletes.
In the athlete meeting, right? I'm sure they had an athlete meeting at some point. In the athlete meeting, if I'm LeBron James, I'm going to be vain enough to say, take me out of consideration for carrying, you know, because, you know, Rulon Gardner carried the flag, the Olympics after, I want to say,
Was he 96?
yeah, he was 96. I think that the
2000?
yeah, I believe in Sydney. And I kind of made a little push for when I went to 96 Olympics. I'm like, I want to do this. This is yeah. And then I'm like, I'll go back to the Army team. And then I'm like, oh boy, my body don't work the way it used to. Um, but yeah, like Rulon Gardner beat Alexander Karelin, which at the time, Alexander Karelin was unbeatable.
It was part of the Russian athlete machine, though. But I mean, he still had to put in the work.
Yeah,
But from the time he was a baby, he was genetically engineered to be
most
an
certainly.
Olympic gold medalist.
And that's that kind of goes back to, you know, I didn't wrestle as a young child like they do now. You know, I didn't, you know, um, it was quite the opposite. I was a horrible athlete um, in my neighborhood. Like the Josephs hated picking me. Um, and then um, I grew into my body. You know what I mean? And
You didn't look so much like a baby giraffe.
right. Oh no, I looked like Spanky when I was wee little. They used to call me Pig because my nose was pushed up and it was always dirty. They used to call me that. Pig. Pig was my first nickname. Um, so yeah. Um, but then you know, like I said, I grew into my body, and you know, when you discover, you have a lot of fear until you discover you have a pain tolerance, and then once you're like, well, I don't think this is going to hurt that bad. You know what I mean? Like you look at things like ride your bike down a fucking hill that you can envision yourself doing flips over the handlebars. If you hit something wrong and you're like, that's going to hurt, but it ain't going to hurt that bad, you know? So then you do it, it hurts like a motherfucker. And then you're like, well, I shouldn't do that. The next time I do it, I won't hit that rock. Yeah, you will. You know why? Because you'll do it again. And I did.
I was the idiot that I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't afforded the opportunity to be an athlete because of my circumstances. I had to work,
Right.
and I couldn't miss work to be able to participate in high school athletics. But I was the idiot that would try stupid shit and do stupid shit. Like I was jackass before jackass.
Right.
Like, you know, that level of dumbness, you know, going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour and I crawl up on the top of the car and I'm hanging on to it, you know, because I'm stupid and don't have no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, so I did a lot of I broke a lot of collarbones doing stupid shit. I wasn't supposed to. Um, and again, that was my I don't know, like that was my other thing. Like I was also known as a dude that broke a lot of fucking bones. But I didn't drink milk, and then I started drinking milk, and I haven't broken a bone until my elbow. But that was in a motorcycle wreck.
So
Unless the VA's listening, I fell off that deck.
this is going to tie into the Olympics, but
Hmm.
not quite from the military standpoint of it. So a military Olympian,
Uh-huh.
they have a different perspective because of their military service
Right.
on the national anthem, the flag,
Uh-huh.
the honor of representing your country. Um,
At least they should.
right. Brittany Griner, um, back in 2020,
Hmm.
knelt during the national anthem,
Hmm.
felt that that's what she needed to do, didn't have, said that the national anthem shouldn't be played before WNBA events,
Hmm.
then spent her time in the Russian gulag.
Hmm.
Um, now she says when she wears her Team USA uniform, she gets chills. She has a whole new appreciation for the anthem.
Hmm.
And do you think that it's lip service
Or genuine.
or genuine? And do you think that more Olympians
Need to
should
go to jail.
no, funny, but no. Do you think there should be a reverence for the country and the flag that you're representing on the world stage? Um like there should be, like, if you're going to be an Olympic athlete, you should be held to a higher standard than everybody else. You know what I mean? Like if Team USA for basketball,
Uh-huh.
all of them are kneeling for the flag in the NBA because that's their right and
Right.
want to do,
Hmm.
I don't think they should be representing said flag at the Olympics because, it's your right to do what you want to do, but it's also the USA's right to not send you to represent them when you can't even honor that same flag when you're home.
Right.
But now you're going to go play basketball on the world stage under it and wave it around, and I don't know. I was reading an article about it the other day, and she was like, a lot of people have come after me because I'm on Team USA, but I knelt. She goes, but I've changed my outlook.
Hmm.
Granted, it wasn't like she genuinely changed her outlook because she grew as a person. She went down a really dark hole, which a lot of people do when you hit rock bottom and then you look back up. And what saved you was that country that you said you had
Right.
a. So, it's one hand washes the other, but like the reverence for the flag and the reverence for the anthem and the reverence for the country, you're going to represent said thing.
Hmm.
You should be held to a higher standard in regards to representing that thing. I guess is where I'm going with that. And by extension, I think that in general, your military athletes probably set the example or should set the example for the reverence.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to
Uh,
say?
yeah, I get it. And I will respond by well, I think that the United States Olympic Committee should address this by saying, no one should kneel, right? Um, if you are kneeling to the national anthem to protest police violence, um, inequality, all the talking points that you said, this is why I'm kneeling, none of those happen in France. There's no American police officers in France killing African Americans. None, right? So do not take your politics from America to France,
Yeah.
right?
American politics should not be on the world stage when it comes to the Olympics.
If you do not want to stand and place your hand above your, on your heart, and you don't have to stand there quietly, right? And when just stand there quietly. You know what I mean? Any like because if you're not going to stand, and there's plenty of Americans, right? American citizens that are competing in the Olympics not as American athletes,
Yes.
right? So, that never that right there has never sat well with me, right?
If you are whether regardless of how you are an American citizen, if you are an American citizen, you should not be playing for. So if I came from Germany
Right,
and then I naturalized as a U.S. citizen,
right,
that should negate me from being able to participate on the German team.
right. Well, I mean, and I don't. Again, I don't want to be an Olympian that bad. To it's like people go to the United States, the United States Championship, whatever it is, whatever sport. They have a trials, they have Olympic trials, running, whatever. Every sport has trials. It's just not people in a room's like, oh, I think she's fast. Let's, no. Like, you go out and compete. If you win, you're in. You don't, you're not.
It's a meritocracy,
Right.
the way it should be.
And what people do is they go like, well, yeah, I'd love to play for America, but they have really good people. So I'd rather, if I'm second best in the world in whatever, then I'm gonna go to, because my grandfather is Italian, so I'm gonna go compete for the Italian team. Like, I I don't know. I don't, but that's their decision, right? It's allowed. They're allowed to do it. To me, no. I'd rather not be an Olympian than compete for another country. Um,
One of the best examples, before you got on that, if I thought of it, one of the best examples of not bringing your politics to the Olympic stage is the 1936 Olympics.
right.
The guy that Jesse competed against in the long jump.
Yep.
They're in Germany,
Yep.
Nazi controlled. Hitler was there. He lost to Jesse,
Hmm.
but in that moment, those two formed a bond
Yep.
that carried with them the rest of their lives. And
He,
and he went against everything that the Nazi political message was. And he took a lot of heat for that
yeah.
afterwards, but he didn't let his politics impact the competitive nature between two Olympians on the grand stage.
Yeah. He chose in that moment to be a good human. Um,
And embody what it means to be an Olympian.
what it means to be an Olympian. But like and I think it's an applied task, right? Like, when you become a member of Team USA, the goal, I think, for every team that went to the Olympics is to be a gold medalist. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you're not from some country that has one Olympian and never had you know what I mean? Like, you're from a country that
Routinely medals.
routinely medals in everything. And so when you come as an Olympian, you expect a medal. So with medal comes the anthem of that country.
Yeah.
So, now there's also a lot of individual, it's all individual goals that lead to a team goal, right? So in order for USA to win the medal count, every individual has to do their part.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I I never try to put how I feel about the national anthem, how I feel about um, the country. I'm an unapologetically American. Um, I'm unapologetically um, a patriot, even though that word has been demonized.
Yes.
Right. Um, um, again, I don't look. I take everything for face value. Right. I don't know what Francis Scott Key was thinking when he penned the fucking Star Spangled Banner. I don't know. Nor does anyone fucking else that is alive right now.
But we do know historically over the last 250 years what it means in relation to this country's growth and advancement.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
1776, the United States of America versus 2024 United States of America is vastly different
Yes.
in society, culture, advancements, technology, views on people, religion. Like it runs the gamut. But that song and the feeling, the evocation that it brings, I bet that there were guys that were fighting under that flag in 1776 that felt the same way as the guys who fought under the flag in 1860s in the Civil War versus the guys that fought under World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm. I mean, they only got to feel it for like 100 hours, but
Yeah. Gotcha.
and then to our generation's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That same feeling,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's not Francis Scott Key's politics at the time shouldn't dictate how we react to that song 250 years later. That song is the representation of what this country aspires to be.
Right. I mean, but then, again, I'm not the person that tears a fucking working TV apart because I want to know how it works. I'm not that guy. I hit the red button. If a fucking picture comes on, it works. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. So why? So I'm not one to dig into something. Did you know there was a third stanza to the, Star Spangled Banner? Do you know it says, slave in there? Right. I do. Do you also know that in 1776 there were different meanings for slave, not just, you know what I mean? That there were other slave, you know what I mean? Like, do we know that's what, again, me me sitting here as a middle-aged white man is different for me.
Right. Well,
Right.
yeah, I'm going to use a word you just used a minute ago. The word slave has changed in connotation throughout history,
Right.
just like the word patriot has.
Right.
50 years ago, the word patriot was not a demonized word.
Right.
And now, because of these crazy right wing militias and things like that, or talking points from people who are trying to tear down, the
Right.
word patriot has been demonized.
Right.
So if your grandpa said he was a patriot, does that mean he's a horrible person by
Right.
today's standards?
Yeah.
No. Come on, man.
Right.
Like words have meaning, but
Yep.
meanings change over time, especially in the English language.
They absolutely do. And then, people will make the argument, well, the Star Spangled Banner is racist, so we shouldn't stand for it. And I'm like, well, in the history of like, if I can go 50 years with never hearing the third stanza of the Star Spangled Banner, that means it's not prevalent, right? Like, do I know there's a third stanza? Yeah. Did I know it was there before? Yeah, I did, right? However, we don't sing that part no more. But you're going to take one word of a song with many words in it and not pay attention to the meanings of any other word in that song, right? It's selective outrage, right? Um, like I'm 100% on board with peaceful protest, right? No matter where you want to conduct the peaceful protest, do it. Now, if you do it in a place that has consequences, then take the fucking consequences. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it means that much to you, then the consequences should not deter you from doing what you believe in.
The mountain of right.
The mountain of motherfucking right. But like I said, if you're on the American Olympic team and the men's basketball team, they should win the gold medal with ease. Should. If they do, they're going to play the national anthem.
Here's a really good way that the Olympic athlete should look at it. You are there as an American Olympian. You represent America, not the left America, not the right America, not the middle America, not the weirdos in between. You represent all of that. And all of that is represented by the flag and the anthem because that's what it's done for the last 250 years. You don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to like it. But if you're going to represent Team USA, then you need to adhere to a certain expectation of what representing Team USA means. It's
Right.
not Team Democrat. It's not Team Republican. It's not Team White, Team Black, Team Mexican, or Hispanic. It's Team USA, the United States of America.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that comes with, again, that should be something that is spoke about prior to accepting an invitation, accepting your position.
That should be the run to the White House and back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing you have to pass to get into the room to do the tryout is you have to run to the White House and back. You have to accept that once you put on that Team USA jersey, you are not an individual representing your personal beliefs. You are a representative of the United States. That's why when we're in the military or even in our own organization, we talked about at the last episode, the CVMA, we are not allowed to represent or we are not allowed to participate in political things because we are representing something that's bigger than ourselves.
Yep.
And that's what Team USA should be as well.
Yep. Exactly. And and it's like I live vicariously, Nova asked me why I watch Olympics. Like, that's all I do is sit there and watch Olympic sports all the time. I think it's amazing. And I find myself yelling at the TV. I know the person in the pool that is one stroke behind the person that's about to win cannot fucking hear me, but I'm throwing vibes out there into the universe.
You are a person who is passionate about the Olympics.
Oh yeah.
But part of that passion is your patriotism for the ones that are wearing the Team USA jersey.
And and then one of the comments I saw about, to go back to LeBron James carrying the flag is, people's like, it's disrespectful. I don't 100% don't think it is disrespectful. My only knock on LeBron carrying the flag is that he is in the forefront. You turn on every day you turn on ESPN, you'll hear his name every day.
Because he's a professional.
Right. And but you'll hear his name every day. Like and again, I'm well aware that every athlete, the athletes picked him. Well aware. What I'm saying is every 4 years, you play in the Olympics because your country allows you to play in the Olympics, right? Because at one point, professional athletes did not participate in the Olympics until, I'm pretty sure the Russians beat the Americans, and they're like, well, they have professional players, so we're going to bring professional players. That's why the Dream Team was found. And then we put professional athletes in there since, cool.
And it's a double-edged sword. The best basketball players in the United States play professional basketball.
Yes.
If we excluded our professional basketball players, we wouldn't be sending the best basketball players to. So I get that. But our professional basketball players don't embody the tradition of the Olympic athlete.
Right.
And so in the spirit,
because they're not staying in the Olympic Village.
In the spirit of that tradition, that's why they should choose non-professional athletes to be the flag bearer for Team USA. That's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, in
hey,
its entirety, it's just a spirit of tradition.
Just say, hey guys, before, like, be vain enough to be like, hey, I understand I'm the best fucking basketball player on earth right now. I'm going to exclude my, like there was a list. There was a list brought out of the best Olympic athletes, and fucking Carmelo Anthony was on the list. He was in the top 10 of. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no. Not that I don't like Carmelo Anthony, but he plays basketball for a living. You know what I mean? Like, that's your fucking job. That's how you make your money. What are we talking about? Yeah. Like,
LeBron's had 20 years of fame.
Yeah.
Let these Olympic athletes have their 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. Right. So, like, Diana Taurasi is going after her 5th gold medal. Right. Like, you play on the best team of professional athletes. Like, why are you in the same vein as all these other motherfuckers that are doing it every 4 years? Like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come on.
So spin back around.
Can't be the same.
Spin back around.
All right.
We hold a high esteem for military Olympic athletes.
Absolutely.
And we don't look down on them because their career has kept them from what we consider regular army or,
Well, and yes, and that's the thing. Like, listen, if you had the opportunity to get paid by the army for 20 years to fucking play badminton, you would be hitting birdies all fucking day long. Now, don't say you won't. Like, I don't give a fuck who you are, you will. Right? So, don't fucking hate.
Forrest Gump into ping pong.
Don't fucking hate. Badminton is a sport in the Olympics. So is breakdancing. Come on.
You and Bobby were talking about that the other day, busting out some cardboard.
God damn, bro.
Hey, can you imagine being on the all-army breakdancing team?
They call that a club in motherfucking Korea, but
I'm just saying, like a very young, impressionable Steve Vickers
shit, yeah,
would
man.
have been the all army breakdancer for a very long time.
I was a master of the head spin.
I mean,
I'm like, I couldn't do the little fucking arm spin because I was a little fat kid, but I can get on my head spin like a top. I'm just saying.
so military
With my fucking
Olympians.
parachute pants on with all the zippers.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
military Olympians.
Yeah.
Should be held in high esteem
Yeah,
by the American public,
yeah.
but also by their fellow military veterans, whatever.
It goes back to our hero. You don't need to be shot at to be a
Yes.
fucking hero. You don't. Um, you don't need to be shot at to be a fucking well respected. We got a problem over?
Oh, okay. That's easy fix.
You don't need to be shot at to be a well respected military member. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's different ways to serve, and you're doing it. You know what I mean?
And that's going to lead us into this week's fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Because you mentioned about buyers being in Times Square, kind of like on a recruiting gig.
Yep.
I was reading an article last night that the Army spent $11 million on a recruiting campaign with the USFL and by extension, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, because that's something he owns. And by the metrics, they did not see a bump in recruiting at all. And actually, there was a decrease in recruiting. So the fuck that guy is not Army. The fuck that guy isn't the USFL. The fuck that guy is that they think money will fix their recruiting problem.
Yeah.
Money won't fix the recruiting problem. The recruiting problem they have is that when we enlisted, the allure of enlisting wasn't because a professional athlete wore a Army thing on his uniform.
Right.
It was the allure of service and doing something bigger than you, and the values of what each respective branch portrayed. That's what that helps recruiting. The reason recruiting sucks right now is, one, the youth of today, with all the things we've talked about being wrong in our society, service isn't as high up and as permeating as much as it used to be. But also, the branches haven't exactly painted themselves in good lights lately. With all of the information at our fingertips now on our phone, all of the dirty skeletons in the closets get opened up, and you learn more and more about the ugly warts of each branch that when we were growing up, when the internet not really being a thing, you didn't really know a lot. If it wasn't in the paper or on the news, everybody knew Oliver North growing up because it was all over the news.
Right.
But nobody knew about all the other shit that was going on behind the scenes that didn't make the news.
Yeah. So most of our generation were too young in 1975 to feel the debacle of leaving Vietnam. And again, without social media, without looking down at my hand every 5 minutes and having so many opinions of so many different people tell me what they think about said debacle in 1975. So then it's right there underneath. Yeah, sorry, he's trying to plug that in. So you would have to take secondhand information. So I would have to hear from my mother what she thought about the Vietnam War, and she just lost a husband. So
very biased,
right? So,
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. So, it's one of those things where when we joined the military, we're like, we're going to do our part. We saw the towers fall, that type of thing. And we're going to do our part. There's no fucking possible way that America would treat their service members like they did in 1975. And lo and behold,
Guess what happened when we left Afghanistan?
you know what I mean? Lo and behold, they fucking did it again. Why is there a recruiting fucking problem? Because young people nowadays don't want to get fucked. They don't. If I have the choice between fucking serving my country and getting fucked, or not serving my country and not getting fucked, then the recruiting part, your recruiting problem would be settled by policy, not by money.
Yeah.
Right.
The current political climate in the United States is using the military as a pawn in that political climate.
Oh yeah.
And because all of this information is flowing, because journalists don't do real journalism things anymore.
Right.
It's just whatever entity owns our particular network dictates what we say. People are going, why the fuck would I join that?
Right.
It would be like anybody, like, I don't know this because I wasn't alive at that time, but you probably didn't have a lot of guys lining up to join the army in the 70s when guys that were coming home were being called baby killers.
Right.
And shit thrown at. Like, why?
Right.
Why the fuck would you want to sign up for that as an
Yep.
18, 19-year-old kid?
Right.
But another thing that could help them is instead of paying, because I didn't know until the story broke a few years back. I can't remember exactly when it was. The military paid the NFL an astronomical amount of money for flyovers and shit like that. Like, I'm sorry, excuse me, say what?
Yeah.
No. Don't sit there and tell me you're going to do your salute to service gear, but you're requiring the Air Force to pay you money to fly planes over top, in addition to the cost of flying said planes.
Yep.
But you know what you do have in-house? You have Olympians that you can take out on the recruiting trail. Hey, guess what? This cat not only joined, right, but now he's training. You just saw him in the 2024 Olympics in Paris being on top of the motherfucking podium as the best in the world. Oh, and by the way, guess what? He's an Army soldier. Like, check that out. I'm not saying it's going to fix your recruiting problem, but it's a hell of a lot better than paying the fucking USFL $11 million to get nothing of value from your money.
Yep. I got you.
So
fuck those guys.
Fuck the guys that are in charge that can't understand why their recruiting numbers suck.
Yep, I agree. And before we end, I brought up earlier about the redhead from So when I opened my phone again, Brian Scalabrine, right? Have you heard of him? Of course not, right?
Probably not.
So, anyways, Brian Scalabrine was he was on the Celtics when they won the championship, right? He played like 1 minute a game, right?
And he wasn't the 6th man; he was like the 12th man,
right? And then he retired. He played on several different teams, and then he retired, and then he went back, where he's from, and people was like, fucking, you're trash, this, that, and the other. And then he's like, okay, meet me at the gym. And then he would fucking monkey stomp him. Like, listen, yes, I was the 12th guy on a fucking world championship team, but there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't the top guy on that team. I was the 12th guy, but I have a ring just the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I still had to be good enough to be the 12th guy.
Right.
Yeah. And
And
your ass couldn't be
but
good enough
people
to make it to college and
but
play.
people were sitting at home being like, I can fucking wax this white dude, and then he would. I'm telling you,
He would Woody Harrelson that shit from
yeah,
White Men Can't Jump.
right.
Yeah.
But that's what he does. He
Yeah.
brings people in the gym. Oh, all right, put some money on that, and then just all right, send them home fucking crying. Like there's fucking
I may not be the best, but I was still good enough to make it to the
there's fucking
dance.
levels. There's fucking levels to this shit. So understand the levels, and that was um, one of the things. Yeah. So
So, in closing, revere your Olympic athletes,
yeah,
revere your military Olympic athletes. If you're in the military, give your fellow Olympic athletes love because they're doing service to country, not in the same way you're doing it, but in an equally important way. And if you really want to know what's wrong with your recruiting problem, money is not your issue. Image and policy is your problem.
yeah, facts. So, and just to say these names out loud, Captain Samantha Sullivan, women's rugby, John Wayne Josh, he is shooting. He's a Paralympic shooter. Elizabeth Marks, Paralympic swimmer. Um, Leonard Poirier, marathon, and then Kamal Bey is wrestling, 77 kilos. So, and then we also have two coaches. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's
Those are
also
Army Olympians.
all there's only 7 military Olympians. They're all Army. Um, and then you have, excuse me, 10. You have some shooters as well.
But
Um,
all the Olympians this year are Army.
yeah.
Again, like you said, when the recruiter showed you, I mean, do you want to be a winner?
I mean, it's one of I mean, it's one of those things where, um, and the Paralympics, right, are going on simultaneously. You know what I mean? So, I
You're not just a badass Olympian, you're a badass Olympian with a major disability.
yeah, yeah. So, um, I mean, good luck to him.
Go Team USA.